Okay, guys, so I just saw this thing on Pinterest. But that got me thinking. So I've got a new bandsaw and a new table router, and so I'm going to set up a tool like that. But I'm going to do a little different. So that's for table saw. I got a new one too, but I don't have space for it set up. So this is going to be for the bandsaw. And what I've done is I went ahead and cut this end so it's good and square, and then I've marked every half inch up to 4 inches. So then I'm going to set the bandsaw up once, come in and cut, and then I'll just cut them all back. So far doesn't really matter. And then that way, whenever I go to set up another project and I want to cut an inch from the end of whatever I'm cutting, I can come in, I can set this on the blade, bump my guard up, and go. Now, that's step one. So I'm going to make this universal. The back side here, this is already a scrap board, but what I've done, and my plan is, and we'll try this out, so I want to go, so my depth from the end of this, from this edge of the board to the back side of the tool, so how deep I'll cut, I want to do 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and an inch of depth. So that's what we're going to be routering. So to get all that in one tool, what I'm going to do is I'm going to step this. Let me think about how to say this. I'm going to step this so that this is the shallowest cut and this is the deepest cut. So it doesn't really matter what it is because I can set the height off of the same board. I can set the height off this edge, touch the top of the tool. I know that's 0, and then adjust off of my gauge. So what I'm going to do is I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts. So I'm not really going to do this. The board's not thick enough, but to keep the math easy, so this is going to be the, what did I just say? This is going to be the deepest cut. I got to make sure I'm saying this right. This is going to be the shallowest cut. This is going to be the deepest cut. So it's going to stair step up like this, right? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts. So this would be 1/4 inch deep, 1/2 inch deep, 3/4, or sorry, reverse that. This is going to be, yeah. So this would be 1 inch deep, 3/4 inch deep, blah, blah, blah. So what I can do is I can set the height of the tool to the same depth, and then I can touch this to the fence, or set the back of the tool here, and then bring the fence up to it the same way I'm doing with the jigsaw. So so that way I can use this as a guide. So it'll make sense as we go. I'm going to do this in a quick video. It's just going to be some pretty simple cuts. That's the explanation of it. So next we'll set the tool up, and I'll just make the cuts over and over again. Going to try to explain this one more time. So this is the offset from the fence. So from here to the end of the tool is 1/4 inch. From here to the end of the tool is 1/2 inch, 3/4. So that would be how far back I'm machining down, like I did in the crossbow project. Or like I'm doing in the crossbow project. You haven't seen that yet. And then so this is what I'm talking about as far as the steps. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to do it in 1/8 inch increments. Doesn't matter, it could be 5/1000ths, but 1/8 inch will give me a good hard stopping point. I think I'll feel better. So I'm going to cut 1/2 inch deep for this slot. Then I'm going to come in, I'm going to touch, and then I'm going to cut 3/8 of an inch deep, and then 1/4 inch, and then 1/8 inch. So it'll be stair stepped down from this side of the board forward, if that makes sense. So hopefully that explanation makes more sense, and we'll get to it. Here we go. Alright guys, so I came up with one more thing we're going to try to do. So we're going to try to make this side for the miter saw. So I think we can do the same type of thing what we're doing here with the bandsaw, and we can put cuts in this so we can set up for like a short distance on the miter saw. I don't know, I find myself trimming off a lot of, just a couple inches here and there. So I'll probably make stops at like 2, 3, 4 inches maybe, probably on an inch. And I might router it out and kind of do the same stair step thing, but we'll try that on a scrap piece. But so this tool is going to be 1, 2, 3. It'll be 3 tools in one. Okay guys, so working on this jig, we're over here. We're gonna like you're helping. I'm gonna take those cuts. I got a couple of problems. One, that's not really a good way to start that cut. I need a little more space, so I'll have to. That's better. Okay, so that's problem one. Problem two is once I do this, locate it. I need a good way to stop it from wanting to do this. Ideally, I come off the ends of the tables and just put a pin, and then these two pins would keep it from rotating. Those would be good location points, but because I want to use this on the bandsaw, I've already got a problem. I need to cut some of this off because the shortest cut won't fit between my blade and the throat of the bandsaw. Yes, I know. But either way, this was the board we're going to use. So I still have the problem of how do I keep it from doing this? Yeah, so that's the good question, and that's because you have a point contact and not a line. So if I have a full line of contact, I don't want to do that. But because I'm just catching on one point of this and one point of that circle, now I have a pivot location. So I need to create one stop. So, as I'm sitting here talking this through, there's my stop right there. So, simple enough. We'll go ahead and do this, and then once I'm done, I'll drill and I'll put one pin in it, and that one pin will give me 2 points of contact and keep my rotation. So, simple enough. That's how you work through it, though. So let's set this bad boy up and make our cuts. Deepest to shallowest. Yeah, because I got to clear this cut's got to clear the bit to get to this cut. So, deepest to shallowest. All right. The other thing is this particular jig is going to locate to this edge of the tool. So that should compensate whether I have a 1/2 inch tool or a 3/4 inch tool or whatever. I'm going to change the width of the cut. But not the location from here to the rest, which I think is what I want. I'm thinking about it as I'm saying it. Do I want to go smaller? That's going to leave me a 3/4 step from there to there. And then so if I put a 1/2 inch tool here, it still gives me the same step. Which I think is fine, because if I wanted a 1/2 inch tool set a 1/4 inch in, that's going to leave obviously a 1/4 inch of material. So that might be what I want. So, because if I want to take off the full side of something, I'll use the biggest one I've got just because that's fewer setups, because that's probably what I'll leave it at. So that is how I'm going to do it. Just something you've got to consider of diameter of tool change to your jig. How does that affect your tool? So here we go. Forgot to set my height. be brilliant if I didn't mess up my measurement somewhere. So our first cut's great. First cut. Right on a quarter. We're about a 1/16 over. And then we're about, well, of course it's hard to say. Maybe we're only a 1/16 over, but it sure feels like more like an 1/8. Might have goofed her up, but that's the idea. Okay guys, well I broke out the calipers and measured this, and I'm off on all of it. So I'm not going to cut the next step. We'll just call this a proof of concept. And we'll move on to the bandsaw. Yep, we'll move on to the bandsaw, get those cut, and then go from there and either come up with a way to salvage this, or we'll just have to start over. Probably just start over. But good trial piece. I want to make sure I get our pin idea figured out, so we'll do that too. Should be fine as long as I've got engagement on both sides and a pin here. So I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw and mark where my throat is, and then we'll make sure this works. Alright guys, so this is going to be easy to set up because I've already done the mark out work. So basically this works the same way. In advanced, okay. So we're going to try to center that line up. Well, what do so how am I going to normally use this? What is going to be, so I'm betting my keep side is normally going to be on this side. So actually I'm going to set the blade to the outside of the mark. That way, well, at least I know which way it is when I go to use it. So here we go, first cut. Well, that's all I'm doing tonight, because I don't feel like, well, that's it. Well, that's the end of that project. Shaft sheared completely. So, yep, we will be done with the bandsaw part. Well, that's how you do the setup on it. Pretty simple. Miter saw's next.